you, Madam Usha. And well, now is the time to hand over this floor to our second speaker, Mr. Suresh Rai. So I would like to request Mr. Suresh Rai to start your discourse. Thank you.
All right, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, so shall I start now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, please, sir.
All right, all right. Well, respected Dr. Ram Narayan Kandangwa, sir, one of the keynote speakers who has already presented his views on this topic here today. Dr. Govinda Tumbang, sir, the former governor of province number 1. Dr. Keda Paudel, my teacher. Dr. Ramesh Limbu, Dr. Ramji Pimalchina, my teacher. Respected dignitaries and other dear intellectual attendees of this magnificent event in the audience. And thank you very much, Mr. Subhas Sayung, for having me as one of the keynote speakers alongside respected Dr. Ramnaran Kandangwa, so for this virtual discourse on COVID-19 pandemic, impacts on economy, politics at all, from local to global perspectives. I wholeheartedly take my hat off to you for your amazing novel initiative, Mr. Subhas Sayung, through this incredible virtual platform, which truly enables the intellectuals to share their brilliant ideas and propositions on a wide range of themes that apparently benefit the society and the world. Now, let me get down to our business for today. Well, first of all, let's begin by briefly looking at what COVID-19 is. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic, also known as coronavirus pandemic, is an ongoing global epidemic of the coronavirus disease, which is caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, that is also known as SARS-CoV-2. Well, even though I'm not really expert at this field, I've just made some research and found out this pieces of information. The outbreak, in fact, was first detected in a Chinese city of Wuhan in December 2019. The World Health Organization declared this outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on 30th of January 2020 and a pandemic on 11th March 2020. Well, as of today, worldwide, there have been over 4.89 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 1.69 million infected patients have fortunately made a full recovery. And unfortunately, the death toll has reached over 323,000, all over the world, as of today, so far. Well, in terms of Nepal, the number of confirmed cases has exceeded 400 by today, I think. This morning, I didn't really follow the news because I just woke up a little late, actually. I'm a little lazy bone. And 37 patients have recuperated completely, while 2 people have succumbed to COVID-19 as of today. And well, it just goes to show that some dark clouds are definitely looming on the horizon of our country, Nepal, as well. So we need to be pretty much cautious about the devastating impact of COVID-19. That's what I feel. Anyway, despite the fact that the outbreak took place in China at first, well, China is just the worst hit country because it succeeded in containing the spread of the virus on time by means of stringent preventive measures such as lockdown, social distancing, but actually I would like to call it individual distancing literally, because social distancing could be a little derogatory. That's what I feel. And regular sanitizing of the body and all that jazz. That's what happened in China, However, the worst affected countries so far are the United States, the UK, Italy, and so on. Anyway, well, in terms of population, I think the UK is the worst hit country at the moment because the United States has comparatively much larger population than the United Kingdom. Anyway, well, at the moment, the virus contagion, or in other words, the virus spread is accelerating worldwide at an alarming rate. So this is overwhelmingly distressing as it has brought life literally to a standstill right across the globe, and it has literally pushed us all into a vicious circle of uncertainty, as this is something totally unprecedented. Anyway, well, ladies and gentlemen, as far as Nepal is concerned, the first case of the COVID-19 was confirmed on 24th of January 2020 in Kathmandu. Well, the patient showed mild symptoms, and after self-quarantine, he was confirmed completely recovered by 31st January. And after this, there was a girl called Prasiddhi Shrestha who tested positive for the coronavirus, and she was the second case here in Nepal, to be precise. And you know what? Well, she had returned home to Nepal from France during her college vacation, and fortunately by now she has made a complete recovery, and this is something good, and this is something we need to be happy about. But unfortunately, two people have already lost their lives to COVID-19 in Nepal, and this is something negative. Anyway, well, in Nepal, mainly we have had imported cases, especially the people who came to Nepal from foreign countries brought this virus with them. And but we've had very few local transmission cases here in Nepal. Local transmission means the virus transmitting from one person to another person here at the local level. Anyway, and since the virus was about to spread far and wide in Nepal, lockdown.
Suresh sir?
Of hibernation. We are totally dormant, we are totally inactive because we are having to confine ourselves to a very limited spaces of our houses here in Nepal too. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, well, it has led to a massive economic downturn in Nepal, to be precise, and this is not something good. And you know what, well, it's going to lead to an economic recession, I felt, and it's going to take years for the economy to recover. Anyway, and this global pandemic has forced our Nepal government to cancel Visit Nepal 2020 as well. That was an ambitious campaign which was aimed at attracting 2 million foreign tourists. And this campaign had expected to boost Nepal's small economy with a GDP of only $30 billion dollars by generating a predicted $2 billion dollars in tourist visits and creating thousands of new jobs here in Nepal. But now it's been postponed indefinitely, and this whole campaign has been under a cloud. That's what I feel. And ladies and gentlemen, well, due to this, well, we have been in an unprecedented global crisis. You know, we are now experiencing an untoward circumstance, not only here in Nepal, but all over the world. And basically, due to the lockdown, measure, due to the lockdown enforcement that's in place in Nepal, basically the poor workers, let's say blue collar workers, have been worst hit because they can't really make both ends meet due to this lockdown because they can't really get paid on a daily basis and they can't get their wages due to lockdown restriction and the food supplies are in acute, the food supplies are in a short supply, let's say, and they're just running out of cash. So they're just, having a pretty bad predicament at the moment. Well, essentially, the low-income businesses are the worst hit by COVID-19 pandemic so far. That's what I have observed. And you know what? Nepal is one of the least developed countries in the world, with about only a quarter of its population living below the poverty line. And Nepal is heavily dependent on remittances, as Dr. Kandawa already mentioned during his speech. And remittances amount to 30% of GDP in Nepal. and it has been badly hit because the people who are just working abroad can't really get paid as they're just staying at home. So I mean, they can't really send remittances to their relatives here in Nepal. So obviously, our GDP, our economy has badly hit, no doubt about that. And well, agriculture is the mainstay of the economy of our country, Nepal. You already know that, right? And it provides livelihood for almost two-thirds of the population. But it just accounts for less than a third of GDP only, right? Because we don't have advanced, technology in agriculture. Anyway, industrial activity mainly involves the processing of agricultural products, including pulses, juice, sugarcane, tobacco, grain, etc. And despite the fact that tourism industry is growing here rapidly in Nepal, but it's been badly hit by this pandemic, and it has just come to a halt at the moment. However, intriguingly, the rural areas are relatively safer in terms of contagion so far. Well, I'm from Bhojpur. In my village, I sometimes call the people, my neighbors, and they say, they're just working on the farm, visiting neighbors. They don't have any worry about it. They're just going about their daily, activities. That's what they say. Anyway, Nepal government must work at the war footing in order to bring the surging COVID-19 cases, I feel. And, and then only Nepal government can just really bring this surging COVID-19 cases and death toll under control at the earliest. Otherwise, like Dr. Khandawa said, it's going to be out of control and it's going to lead to another worst disaster in Nepal. Anyway, and if Nepal doesn't really take proper measures, it won't be able to cope with this crisis, as we have terribly vulnerable healthcare system in Nepal. Let me drink some water, okay? All right. Now, let's switch over to coronavirus pandemic impact on Nepali politics. If you just follow me on Facebook, you might see most of my posts, and I often criticize Nepali government. Actually, it's not that I'm affiliated with any political entity or something like that, but I don't like the way government functions anyway. So, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you something interesting here. I feel that Nepal government is at the moment sleepwalking in crisis, and that's going to be absolutely fatal. You know what happens when you just sleepwalk in the middle of the night, right? You're going to just end up in a fatal accident because Nepal government has been totally reckless in handling this COVID-19 crisis. So that's just really, exacerbating at the moment in Nepal. Anyway, so Nepal government has been proved totally incompetent because we have rulers with no any clear vision, no any blueprints, no any roadmaps, no any proper strategies. That's what I feel. And they just only mainly concentrate on their own vested personal interest, so they just, cause a lot of trouble here. And in Nepal, I feel at the moment, PPE, that means personal protective equipment, or let's say protective gears, they are in short supply in Nepal because PPE is needed for the frontline health workers who have apparently put their lives on the line to treat COVID-19 patients. So the government has to do something about it as soon as possible. Because in Nepal, there's too much of orchestrating our political dramas. That's just hindering the progress here. All right, and due to the intra-party conflicts among the political leaders, let's say political heavyweights or bigwigs, also there has been, some problem here in Nepal, and there are frequent corruption scandals in Nepal. And Nepal, I have already said, is vulnerable in terms of healthcare system and facilities, and we have acute shortage of testing equipment or apparatus or medicinal drugs, in other words. And lately, Nepal's western border encroachment by India issue just surfaced here, and it just triggered a lot of outrage and uproar in Nepal. All right. and lots of people took to the streets with anti-India, and anti-Nepal government slogans. Can you hear me clearly, or is there any
No,
difficulty?
no, no. What is
All
happening
right.
there?
Yeah.
Here, now we can hear. Here, Umesh Kumar Yadav is disturbing here, I guess. So,
Oh no, please
yes,
mute him actually.
yes, please.
So I'm having some kind of disturbances here in my ear as I'm using my headphones. Okay. Anyway, and on the whole, Nepal government has lost the trust from its people. So I feel government must be held accountable if the pandemic worsens here in Nepal. And Nepalese leaders have this jingoism and ultra nationalism in Nepal, and this doesn't work. I feel. Recently, the government of Nepal has made public a new political map of Nepal, which incorporates the alleged encroached territories of Nepal. It could be seen as a good move of the government. However, we must not necessarily feel proud of this alone. For this reason, the government must reclaim the encroached strip of this of the land and bring it under her permanent ownership by means of bilateral and trilateral diplomatic and government level negotiations with India and China. That's what I feel. Anyway, now, ladies and gentlemen, let's switch over to COVID-19 impact on global economy and politics, as our topic really suggests. All right. Well, the entire world has gone into a lockdown as a preventive measure to contain the spread of the virus. As you probably know, as you are surely aware of this, and it has really caused a terrible global economic downturn or recession. And as I've already said, it's going to take years for the global economy to recover or to get back to normality. And if you're wondering how much loss the world economy will incur by means of this COVID-19, well, I just really found it somewhere, especially it's a real fact. Okay, the United Nations Trade and Development Agency says the slowdown in the global economy caused by the coronavirus outbreak is likely to cost at least $1 trillion. And I think it could be more because, I depended on the fact which I garnered a few weeks back. Anyway, and millions of jobs have been lost worldwide, as Ram Narayan sir already said, and some of the workers have been laid off. Some of the workers haven't been paid their wages and all that, and it would be overwhelmingly difficult to cushion this blow, actually, right? So we have just suffered a major economic blow due to this virus, and it's going to be terribly difficult to was massively popular before the coronavirus outbreak, but now they have just lost their popularity, and it has caused the changes in the government approval ratings as well. Well, government approval ratings have risen in Italy with plus 27 percentage points. In Germany, plus 11. In France, also plus 11. In the UK, plus 11. All right. So, but interestingly, on the other hand, the US President Donald Trump has seen 6 point drop in his approval. That's what I have just observed here. And states of emergency have been declared all over the world. At least 84 countries have declared a state of emergency in response to the pandemic, leading to fears of misuse of power, actually, like in Nepal. In Nepal, there is no state of emergency, but then, lockdown is here, and government might just misuse the power. That's the fear among the people. And, our topic includes this word this time at all. That means other things. So I can just talk about some other things before I wrap up. I have a very few things, and I'm gonna just end my talk in a little while. But before that, let me drink some water, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not feeling well actually. I'm down with cough and cold.
Okay.
Okay, now let me talk about a global paradigm shift caused by COVID-19. Well, a considerable difference will be there between the pre-COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 worlds, as already Dr. Kandangwa said, in terms of people's perspectives on life, human emotions, habits, and ways of life. I feel anyway. And there's going to be social distancing. That means you don't need to, crowd together, right? Handshake will be just going down in the history only, I would imagine, right? Previously, we would just be so glad to shake hands, but now it's going to be in the history only. And we have our pretty good, like, say, tradition, our Oriental tradition of doing namaskar. I think it's going to be popular, and there's going to be no any crowded musical concerts or lavish parties or celebrations all over the world, right? And face covers or masks will be in fashion, most probably. And the trend setters, the fashionable people will be wearing different stylish face covers in the post COVID-19 world. That's what I feel. And people will be spending more quality time with their family members at home. This is really pretty good. And now let's quickly talk about social stigma surrounding coronavirus patients. Well, Prasidi Shrestha, as I already talked about her, the second corona case in Nepal. And I read her a personal blog a few weeks back, and I was totally heartbroken. She received lots of death threats, hate messages, abusive words. Some people said she disgraced the country, and it's really heartbreaking to know this, and it's really distressing, and it's really inhumane. And we should not really treat people unfairly just because they have contracted coronavirus. That's what I feel. And lately, there has been hatred towards Chinese people all over the world. That's what I heard. And they have been abused, or they are being abused all over the world by other nationals. This is not really good, of course. And there has been a resurgence of COVID-19 cases in some countries. All right, so they have just reopened their economy, but then like now again, they have just closed down due to the surging coronavirus cases in those countries. And even some people with pre-existing health problems have died. Especially people with pre-existing health conditions die. That is normal. But some people with pre-existing health problems also have made miraculous recovery. That is what I have just read in the news. Anyways, and now, well, let's talk about psychological and emotional trauma caused by COVID-19. All right. So we are just experiencing unprecedented levels of trauma at the moment due to coronavirus. Anyway, the research finding of an interdisciplinary team of researchers from Case Western Reserve University, that is based in Ohio, USA, is that the COVID-19 pandemic could inflict long-lasting emotional trauma on an unprecedented global scale, leaving millions of people grappling with debilitating psychological disorder. And in Nepal too, many hospitals didn't admit the flu patients for the fear that they would contract coronavirus. And bad, such emotional fragility can give rise to countless brutal and inhumane activities in the society, which would be terribly detrimental to the humanity. That's what I feel. And impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the environment, this is what I'm talking about now. Well, as the number of confirmed coronavirus cases grew exponentially, well, restrictive public health measures to stave off the worsening pandemic were put in place.
These measures included stay-at-home orders, that is lockdown in Nepal, all right, social distancing, and so on. So while these developments have obviously inflicted substantial economic and social disruption globally, they have also led to significant reductions in air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. That's what I feel. And pollution and greenhouse gas emissions have fallen across continents as countries are struggling to contain the spread of this virus all over the world. I have already told you. And air quality has improved tremendously, ladies and gentlemen. Many countries and regions have experienced a sharp drop in air pollution. For example, Kathmandu, now I can just really, breathe in fresh air of Kathmandu after the lockdown here. And rivers, lakes, and seas are getting back to the pristine conditions. That means like water quality levels in the world's major cities, including Kathmandu, have improved dramatically of late, I feel. And as people are staying at home and traveling less, some animals have been spotted in the city areas too. It is like, this is good for the, animals too, right? So COVID-19, now I'll just wrap up, all right? So COVID-19 is a blessing in disguise, I feel. Napoleon Hill says every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent success, right? So we have been just knocked down by coronavirus, but actually we're gonna just be able to get through this virus. We're gonna just be able to overcome this virus one day. As Lord Krishna says, it will pass soon. Anyway, so thank you so much. With these words, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you.